morning, Job 32 Elihu here. Welcome to the channel. Please subscribe, like, and share. I'm just going to be going over some headlines with you here. It is getting kind of crazy. March 26, 2020. Headline news is Kathy Griffin is hospitalized with unbearably painful symptoms. And of course she blames Trump. What's funny is she has the symptoms, but she's not being allowed to test. And I'm hearing this from a lot of people that are feeling the symptoms of this coronavirus are not being allowed to be tested. They're saving the tests for extreme cases, or if you've got enough money, they've got a lot of celebrities who've been tested and tested positive. So why are they not testing? I guess that's the big question, and maybe we'll get to the bottom of it in doing a little digging. I don't know. But really, you need to just keep yourself safe, keep yourself isolated. There's going to be a lot of people dying if this is for real in the next week or so. There's a lot of cases out there. So anyway, another headline is 3 billion now on lockdown. So the virus toll, according to Yahoo News, AFP rather, is the virus toll passes 20,000 while 3 billion are under lockdown. That is a lot. And the curve is still going up. It's not decreased yet because people took too long to isolate, or they're taking too long to isolate to slow this thing down. But the efforts that we've made will have an effect. They will keep it from getting worse later than it would have been. And then here's an interesting headline. Patients are potentially going to be charged with attempted murder for failing to isolate. Now, I don't know. This is out of South Africa. That's out of. 2 men who tested positive for coronavirus were being investigated over allegations that they refused to self-isolate. Now, in California recently, people who had AIDS were allowed to infect other people without being charged for this. So who knows where that's going to go. There's another one I want to bring to your attention this morning, is that hospitals are considering the do not resuscitate order just across the board. Like if you die on the table, they're not going to resuscitate you. They're not going to attempt to bring you back. That's unheard of. But apparently they're considering it. So there are probably going to be a lot of funerals. Doctors are writing their wills. I think everybody should write their will. You just don't know. And you don't want your property after you die to be quartered up and taken for taxes, or going to the wrong person when you die, or go to the lawyers when you die. So, it's a good idea to go ahead and have your wills done, especially with all this going on, the day and age we live in. Have your will written, not just handwritten, because you write the wrong thing and lawyers can take that out of context and completely change what you... It could undermine your attempt to take care of your family. I've seen it done in my own family. All right. The debt is ballooning to almost $1 trillion, nears 2008's peak. But then the governors are saying that mass federal bailouts are falling short. This is definitely getting crazy. And of course, Treasury is showing negative interest rates, which is unheard of. That's only happened a few times in the past. Here's a headline: morgues near capacity. Half of New Yorkers will get infected, the mayor says, of New York, and the morgues are going to be near capacity. According to Politico, New York City morgues near capacity. The Department of Health Services, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, rather, warns. Officials are being told that morgues in the city are expected to reach capacity next week, per the briefing. And so what are they going to do with all those bodies when people start dying of this virus? They're probably not even going to allow funerals for fear of it spreading. They're not going to allow pastors to, whether you're a Catholic, say your last rites, or whatever they do with the deceased. Families are not going to be able to say their goodbyes in the same way that we've said them. You see, over the years, people have been introducing this this alternative method of funerals where instead of burying the dead, you're cremating the dead. That is not a normal practice. It's almost as if that has been setting us up, getting you ready to say goodbye to your family in a different way, non-Christian way. This way of burning your dead, I'm sorry, but this is not a Christian method. And if you're not a Christian, maybe it doesn't matter to you. But this is the illustration where Jesus, his bodily death and resurrection only gives that picture in a physical burial. Now, I don't care if you have a fancy box or a pine box or no box at all, but we should be putting those bodies in the ground per the way we've done in the past. And I understand funeral directors may have a different opinion on that. They may be at capacity. They may there's all kinds of things that happen to that body as it's decomposing, and you want to deal with that in a healthy way. The fluids that come out of a body are full of disease and bacteria that you do not want to touch. So where does that go? It seeps into the ground. And I'm not trying to be gross, but that's the truth. And so in order to keep that from spreading, maybe that's why they're turning to just burning the bodies. Well, that's what they did in World War II. Nazi Germany, they were just burning the bodies to get rid of them in a sanitary way, in the most sanitary way possible. Well, is that what we've come to, where we're just going to burn the dead? Throughout the Bible, burning the dead is a sign of judgment. And maybe we're in a time of God's judgment, God forbid that we turn to just burning the bodies. But maybe you need to talk to a funeral director, have your funeral pre-planned. Not saying that everybody's going to die, but it's something to consider. My grandparents had a prepaid funeral, and it saved the family a little bit of money. Even though it might not have been to the family's wants, it still alleviated a lot of their decision making at that time. All right, so there's something to consider, is cremation. Are we going to be burning all these bodies? God, I hope not. And there's another headline: sick troops. The troops, the National Guard, that's going to be helping in a time of need. According to Washington Times, says sick troops are not being tested. So they may be spreading it inadvertently as well. What it says here in the Washington Times: the Pentagon virus tests are scarce despite assurances. Sick troops are told to self-isolate. So they're, if they're sick, they're showing signs. But if you're not showing signs and you're carrying it, there's just nothing you could do. You won't even know you're spreading it. It's like the common cold. This coronavirus, COVID-19, is like the common cold and how it spreads. Every year you get the common cold, right? There's no vaccine for it. It's just the effects are so mild. We just deal with it, and it changes every year. There's no vaccine for it. If somebody came up with a vaccine for the coronavirus, I'm sure people would probably pay big money for that. To never get the cold again, that'd be great. But this is a virus that's causing more serious issues with breathing and heart issues that spreads like the common cold. All right. And let's look at a few other headlines here. We've got, and I want to reassure you too that if you read the Bible, this is not the end days yet. There's something, it's a perfect setup for it. It's a perfect setup for the mark of the beast and to initiate that end of the world scenario. But we are not in the 7 trumpets, the 7 vials yet. We're not in that time yet. But we are living in times that have never happened before. That is for sure. All right. Just want to look at some of these other headlines. There's a lot of headlines out there, and it's hard to sort through it all. Here's something that we probably ought to talk about. Trump cabinet Bible teacher blames the pandemic on God's wrath. Let's look at that, because Yeah. So this is clergyman, retired professional basketball player Ralph Drollinger at the Capitol Hill Club in Washington, D.C. Okay, that was a picture taken back in 2017. But anyway, he says that the coronavirus pandemic, he's blaming it on God's wrath. Somehow it involves China, gay people, and environmentalists. That's what the headline is anyway. So he says, Ralph Drollinger, a minister who leads a weekly Bible study group for President Donald Trump's cabinet, released a new interpretation of the coronavirus pandemic this week. March 24th, that was a couple days ago, arguing that this crisis represents an act of God's judgment. The coronavirus, Drollinger argued in 2 blog spots and rambling Bible study guide published in the past few days, is a form of God's wrath upon nations, but not one as severe as the floods described in the Old Testament or the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Hello. Wow. Relative to the coronavirus, he says, pandemic crisis, this is not God's abandonment wrath, nor his cataclysmic wrath. Rather, it is a sowing and reaping wrath. He says a biblically astute evaluation of the situation strongly suggests that America and other countries of the world are reaping what China has sown due to their leaders' recklessness and lack of candor and transparency. Neither does he miss a chance to condemn those who worship the religion of environmentalism and express a proclivity towards lesbianism and homosexuality. And the article says these individuals, Drollinger argues in Is God Judging America Today? Quote, one of the minister's posts about coronavirus pandemic have infiltrated high positions in government and educational system, our media, and our entertainment industry, and are largely responsible for God's consequential wrath on our nation. In the Bible study, Drollinger meanders through Scripture explaining the ways in which God may have caused the coronavirus, and in a footnote, he hedges on his previous argument that the virus represents a mild form of God's wrath, noting that we'll soon see a human cure for the coronavirus. So, I agree with a lot of that this is a time to seek God. This is not God's full-on judgment. This may be a mild form of God's judgment. There are a lot of ways you could say this is God's judgment, but it's going to get a lot worse. You read Revelation, you have locusts that don't eat the green things, which is unlike other locusts, but they torment men for a period of 5 months. This is not that time. We're not there yet. Revelation 13 talks about a mark of the beast where you have to take it on your hand or your head, otherwise you will not be able to buy or sell. Well, also, those same people that get the mark of the beast will not be able to get into heaven, period. It is an act of worship, of idolatry, of this world system to get that mark. You are choosing, it is a worship decision when you get that mark. So if and when the time comes, do not get that mark. I don't care if it costs your life. It's going to cost you eternity if you get that mark. So please, please, please understand that getting that mark, it dooms you. It seals you into hell. The only way we're going to get out of this is putting your faith in Christ and what he did on the cross. All his work is what you need to believe on. You need to believe on the Lord Jesus and nothing else. Tell other people about Christ. Please share, like the video, and get the word out. We are living in extreme times, but it is not the end. That is for sure. So I hope you're blessed by this. Hey, get the news out. There's a lot more headlines. I don't want to go through all this. Nobody wants to read all this pandemic news. But please stay safe. There will be people losing their lives, but that's normal. 10 out of 10 people are going to die eventually. It's just a matter of time. Is it going to happen all at once when there's a pandemic, or is it going to happen when you're older and you got the flu, or is it going to happen when you're in a car accident, a heart attack, or some other unknown way? You just don't know how you're going to die. And then there's another headline I want to read before I let you go. Why did hundreds of CEOs resign in the last year? This is strange to think about, but this article was put out by endofamericadream.com. Not really sure if that's a legitimate news site or not, or what that is, but here's the article. It says, why did hundreds of CEOs resign just before the world started going absolutely crazy? An article by Michael Snyder. He says, in the months prior to the most ferocious stock market crash in history and the eruption of the biggest public health crisis of our generation, we witnessed the biggest exodus of corporate CEOs that we have ever seen. And as you will see below, the corporate insiders also sold off billions of dollars worth of shares in their own companies just before the stock market imploded. In life, timing can be everything, and sometimes people simply get lucky. But does it seem odd that so many people in the corporate elite would be so exceedingly lucky in all the same time? Yeah, it is strange. It is very strange that so many CEOs resigned just back in November and like never before. It is crazy. And he says later on in the article, by the end of the year, an all-time record high of 1,480 CEOs had left their posts. Now, I don't know if that's normal or how that compares to a normal year with CEOs changing in and out, but just look at a few of the big name CEOs that chose to step down in 2019. It was the CEO of Boeing, the CEO of United Airlines, the CEO of Alphabet, Gap, McDonald's, Wells Fargo, Under Armour, PG&E, HP, Bed Bath & Beyond, Warner Brothers, Best Buy, New York Post, Colgate, MetLife, eBay, Nike. I mean, these are just tip of the iceberg. In January, there was 219 CEOs stepping down. So, why are they stepping down? Where are they going? And what does this mean? Just in 2020, the CEO of Disney, IBM, Harley Davidson, T-Mobile, LinkedIn, MasterCard, Salesforce, and Hulu, they all resigned just here in 2020. This is insanity. What is going on? You know, with that much change in the economy, it's no wonder that management of these companies could cause it. I just don't know. God has it in his hands. God can change the economy. God can do anything. In fact, he could even make Christians come out on top, make his people come out on top. So, anyway, Job 32 Elihu, please share and like, subscribe. Appreciate you watching, staying tuned. Remember, there's hope. Our hope comes from Christ and what he did. This is not the end. Find your peace in God. Read his word. Find your foundation in him. Find yourself in him. And let him sustain you. Continue to, be healthy. Get your exercise. Take your vitamins. Go plant a tree. It's springtime. Don't be afraid to start a garden, because you don't know what the economy is going to do. It might be like the Great Depression where there's not going to be any food in the grocery stores. We just don't know. So plant a garden. Learn a new skill. If you have prayer requests or comments, please comment below. Let me know that you're watching. And maybe I missed something. Post below, comment, share. Thank you.